Welcome back to the Church of Atheism Podcast. This is our third and final part of the War on Drugs episode. Thanks again to everybody for listening so far. I'm really enjoying doing these podcasts. We really do appreciate it. If you want to help donate to the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/Church of Atheism. You can also go to Amazon anytime you're shopping there. You can go to amazon.com/shop/Church of Atheism. That also helps us out a little bit too. It does not increase your price on Amazon. They just send us a few cents here and there, you know? Anyway, thanks again for listening. We're going to get the episode started right now.
So, the reason I was sending you anti-Ronald Reagan messages earlier is because really, so on my timeline of drug prohibition, really the last kind of entry I have is like the last major law, and this is the absolute, like, this is when the war on drugs went completely off the rails and really probably affected our society in a way that is going to take decades to reverse. And that was in 1986, during the Reagan administration, of course.
To just say no.
Yeah. Oh, what is the Anti-Drug Abuse Act? And that was really the law that basically took any chance of like rehab. It separated rehab and the law. It basically went from trying to rehabilitate people to straight up punishing them. So all of a sudden, that was the law that that's the one that had mandatory minimum sentences for small amounts.
That's insane.
Yeah, because that was their brilliant plan, was to go after. You know, their strategy was to put harsh penalties on just casual users. And that's somehow going to change everything, even though by that point there's still plenty of people addicted to it.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing I've said for, I don't know, fucking forever. Like, and how the fuck does it make sense to make...
Yeah.
Like, heroin addicts don't care what the punishment is. They just want to get their next fix. They don't care.
Yeah. And really, putting them in prison is
the worst thing for them.
It's largely ineffective. For one thing, you literally can die from heroin withdrawals if you're not like if you don't have like people to give you methadone treatments, you can die from it.
Right.
From detoxing. And not only that, nothing's
safer than a prison for that.
Oh yeah. Nothing's safer than prisons in general. You know, the place where people get raped and stabbed and murdered every single day.
Right.
Yeah, so that was... And then, I didn't really write down many statistics, but after that 1986 law, that's when there were... I think the prison population straight up doubled, like within a decade. Or maybe not doubled, but I know that there's like certain demographics that... saw a huge influx, primarily like black people from inner cities.
Yeah. I wish I would have thought about this, because I was looking at pretty much the same thing too about Reagan. I wish I would have thought to look into private prisons.
Yeah.
To see how much that related. You know what, fuck it, I'm going to do it right now. Continue. I'll jump in a second.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, like that anti-drug, like that changed the society in a very negative, awful way. And only recently are we starting to get away with that. And really, like, it's just with weed. I don't think, like... Oh, and then, not only that, and then also during the Reagan administration, there was the blatantly racist, like, you know, crack versus powder cocaine, where the same amount of crack cocaine had a much higher mandatory minimum sentence than powder cocaine. And there's no reason for that. Because you're going to get, if you have the same amount of crack versus the same amount of coke, you're going to get as fucked up. It's just that crack's cheaper, it's faster acting, and, I mean, it wears off quicker. But there really is no difference. It all happens to be because, because that's what black people preferred at the time, I guess. Or it was more prevalent in black communities.
Right.
Crack cocaine. It really is a disgusting thing.
It is. And what year did you say the Reagan thing was going on? Was it 87?
86 was when they passed that law.
Okay. So the Criminal Justice Act of 1991, 5 years later, empowered home security, or empowered the Home Secretary to contract out prison services.
I thought you were talking about ADT, Home Security Systems.
Yeah, no, the secretary. So, call ADT. So 5 years after the Reagan law went into effect, private prisons were opened up just in time for all those spikes in criminal activity.
Oh, yeah, what do you know? And then...
My question is, how the fuck are we still in debt $20 trillion if we have this kind of bullshit?
Yeah, for real. Yeah, it's remarkable, really.
That obviously is going to take a whole other fucking time episode to go through that one. But
oh, man,
how the fuck do you do that? How do you have such a rigged system in place and you're still 20 fucking trillion in debt?
Yeah. Well, that's because, the lawmakers, they just, in regards to what policies and laws, they're just thinking about their political career and their bottom line. They're not concerned one bit about how this is going to
actually affect people.
Yeah, like decades down the line. Decades from now might as well not even exist to politicians because it doesn't matter.
Decades from now might not exist.
Yeah, no shit. That's a good point.
The end is nigh.
I hope so. If everyone's gonna die in nuclear explosions, at least I want to see it.
Yeah, exactly. My point. I want to read about it in some bullshit journal.
Yeah. And then, 1986. That was really when it got bad. And then, since I haven't shat on Democrats enough, it was during the Clinton administration that, because this is another thing, just Hillary Clinton's awful, super leftist supporters, painted her out to be so, for minorities and for black people, but she was instrumental in implementing the Three Strikes Law, which
is one of the worst fucking laws ever fucking made.
The Three Strikes Law, for those, for the folks at home, is you get 3 felonies, you get life in prison.
Right. Any felony.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what, and so there would be people with, there's people in prison for, marijuana, for one thing.
Right.
Because depending on what time, what year, that could have been, even an ounce could have been a felony charge.
Yep.
Or, you get caught shoplifting. And...
Right.
Yeah.
Not to say that those things aren't good. Not to say that those things should be punished or punishable, but fucking A, man.
Yeah. Oh, I guess there was one last note thing that I had. Which was, so in 2001, and by the way, when you are researching public policy, there are so many groups and special investigation Senate groups. They have the longest, most fucking annoying names.
Yeah.
And you really notice that when you're taking notes with a pen or pencil.
Yeah, you do.
So in 2001, there was a
Dershowitz.
Yeah. So in 2001, there was a kind of a drug research council sanctioned by the government, and I think the report they published is called the National Research Council Committee. Okay, aren't council and committee kind of the same thing? Do you have to have those fucking words in there?
Well, it sounds more important this way. The more letters you can fit in an acronym, the more important it sounds.
I guess. So, the National Research Council Committee on Data and Research for Policy on Illegal Drugs.
.com.org.
That that name took up 1 1/3 of the line on paper. It's insane.
God damn.
So this was an actual government study, and the study concluded that the United States government didn't thoroughly study its own drug policy. So this report thing that the government sanctioned concluded that the government's drug policies are just fucked.
Yeah.
And no one read about that. I'm sure that was just pretty much swept up right away. And, yeah, that's another funny thing that, when researching this topic, like, the government will sanction these studies, and then as soon as it doesn't align with their policy that's already in place, then pretty much just get ignored.
Yep. Under the rug she goes.
Oh, here's I gotta tell you this fun little tidbit that I remembered. So, what a lot of people don't realize is that in the 70s, there was an actual medical marijuana program.
Yeah.
And I think it was the National Institute of Drug Analysis.
Yeah.
I think they're the ones who did this, but a lot of people don't know about this. So, like, I think it was in like the mid 70s when.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, they took like a couple dozen people with very debilitating illnesses. Like, a lot of them were nerve damage, like people who were in actual severe pain all the time.
Right.
So the government grew marijuana, and I think like once a month it would actually mail, like they would get them in the mail. They would mail them like a whole shitload of I think 100 or so like pre-rolled joints.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of people don't know that. But here's like the funny thing is that that was actually the only time in U.S. history where the cultivation of marijuana was sanctioned and oversaw by the government.
Right.
And that's where a lot of their the weed that they use for government studies, that's where it comes from.
Right.
But the thing is that so in 1969, the average marijuana plant contained about 3 to 6% THC.
Which is not that much.
No. By the 90s, it was up to 9%, and now the average is anywhere from 15 to 20, 25. So
if you're listening, you've never had the reefer before. It's similar to going from drinking a beer, like a 12-ounce beer, how you drink a 12-ounce beer, to suddenly drinking a 12-ounce whiskey and drinking it just like you're drinking beer.
Yeah, that's
stuff.
Yeah, but so ever since then, they've been using the same shitty strain of shitty weed.
Right.
Their officially sanctioned plants have not even sort of kept up with. Because I think in 1989 was when 1,000-watt bulbs were I think that's when they were invented, and those are what people use for growing. So
right.
As soon as that happened, the average THC content all of a sudden it just it started skyrocketing. So when you're doing studies about how cannabis is bad for your lungs or whatever,
right, you're getting studies from weed that's
they're using 40-year-old dirt weed, and
right.
So there was an incident I think in the early 2000s where I guess there was some theft. I think some of the weed ended up coming out missing. So they had all these employees and people who worked there. They had to go into court and testify. So there was this one guy, and they were like, they asked him, we're like, do you use marijuana? He's like, yeah. Do you use marijuana on a regular basis? And then he's like, yeah, I do. Blah, blah, blah. You know, he's a pretty daily user. And then they asked him if he had ever stolen any of the weed from work to use at home. And he, like, laughed. He's like, no, and I never would. It's terrible. Like, I don't know if that was the exact quote, but it was something very similar. Like, he did actually laugh at that question.
Right.
You know that much.
That's great.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny tidbit. Which, once again, just shows you that the government is, like, decades behind, you know, what the actual citizens want.
Yeah. Of course. Does it surprise you at all?
Yeah. No, not at all. And, yeah, so since that, and then, yeah, it's kind of crazy, though. Like, when I first, like, tried it and did it, like, on a semi-regular basis, it's probably like ninth grade. And then I really didn't do it at all through the rest of high school.
Yeah.
And even, like, really until I was in, like, 20 or something. But anyway, so, like, it's crazy at first. Like, I remember even having the conversation of, would weed ever be legal? And I'm like, no way. No. Not in my lifetime, that is never going to happen. Like, I remember definitely saying that. And it is insane how
close it is.
Like, it's just crazy. Like, as soon as the first state even decriminalized it, like, well, I guess California decriminalized it in 95, but it kind of took a while. Like, as soon as they, made it okay for recreational use, like, that's just crazy how fast the ball got rolling. Now, almost half the states are decriminalized.
Yep. New York is.
Yeah, that's great.
It's nice.
And yet, the federal laws don't even recognize that.
Nope.
Isn't that crazy?
That is. I didn't have a chance to read it, so I don't know the full details or specifics. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back on his word. But Trump is working with some senator to write a bill that says the feds can't interfere with states who have passed it.
Yeah, I remember.
So if Trump signed that, that'd be one of the first things that'd be like, all right, Trump did something good.
What a lot of people don't realize, that was literally the first major thing Obama did when he got into office. And of course, the Republicans were there to fight him on that tooth and nail.
Yep. Go fucking figure, huh?
Yeah, go fucking figure. But it's legal nationwide, but I mean, really, probably in a decade or two.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I wonder how many years it's going to take for the stigma to go away, though. You think it's going to go right away?
You know, even, like, it's kind of crazy, like, just so many people just don't give a shit anymore.
Right.
It's weird, even, like, people with really they could care less one way or the other. Like,
right.
It's still just not a big deal to a lot of people. But, of course, you know, you're going to have your ultra-conservative, ultra-right people who are, you know, it's blasphemous. Even though there's plenty of archaeological evidence to support the fact that marijuana was used in some form in the Middle East when Jesus was most certainly alive.
Guaranteed he was a stoner.
Yeah, exactly.
And he wasn't white.
What? That's not what every painting I've seen says.
Oh yeah, my bad. My bad.
Yeah.
God damn. I feel like we should just throw that into every episode somehow.
Yeah, there you go.
And remember, folks, Jesus wasn't white.
Oh, there's so many people who would just passionately argue with you on that.
Yeah.
It's like, there's no way he could have been white. No. I mean, of course it's possible, but...
It's a miracle. Jesus is white.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and then, like, another thing I was going to bring up was, like... So, like, part of the... hold on.
By the way, just to clear that out there, that was me trying to do an impersonation of somebody who has little to no teeth.
I honestly thought it sounded a bit like Homer Simpson.
Really?
Yeah, I thought so.
Pitching. I'll have to listen to that when I edit. I hope so. That'd be badass.
Oh man, last week me and James watched that Simpsons episode where Homer started smoking weed. That was a pretty good one.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, that was a really good one. I think that was probably from it was from when we were in high school. I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. But
I love The Simpsons. I need to watch them more though.
Oh god, that's such a good show, even still.
Yeah.
No, but so then I was reading, or doing research. I was reading and watching anti-drug arguments, and you can do that for 5 minutes before it just becomes unbearable.
Yeah.
Not one of these fucking people have a valid argument. No one, because they all say the same bullshit.
And none of them have ever tried it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and if they did, there's no way in hell they'll admit it.
No.
But there was one. I can't remember. It could have been Sarah Palin. I know it was it was definitely a female, and it was. I think it was probably around the Obama McCain election, but there was someone who was talking about, oh yeah, if we make it legal for use, then all of a sudden people are going to be handing out marijuana on the street corners and giving it to school kids. Nobody has ever done that. Ever.
Right.
And actually, you know what? Some people probably have. You know what we call them? Is fucking pedophiles.
Which usually serve in the Republican Party.
Yeah, historically speaking, that's been the case. But all these do you remember? Yeah, so the only people that do that are pedophiles and sex offenders. No one's gonna waste drugs on dumbass kids.
Nope.
And then, plus, here's the thing: if you were gonna do that, then that means that whatever drug you're selling, you'd have to be making some good money off that. If weed was decriminalized, nobody's gonna be selling pot. No one's gonna go to a weed dealer.
No.
That's
First off, it's gonna be cheaper if you go to the store.
Yeah, exactly.
Secondly, you're gonna get high quality shit and know exactly what you're getting. It's regulated.
Yeah. Well, and plus another thing is that schools are drug-free zones, so you can't take drugs there.
Right.
That's why because schools are gun-free zones and there's no school shootings.
Yeah, exactly. It works just as well.
Yeah, because they're all crisis actors.
Yeah. God damn. It's dude.
And then the fucking thing that makes me most mad is every time there's an anti-drug politician talking, they say the same fucking stupid shit as how crime's gonna increase. No. You're basing that.
The thing is, you can look at states who have passed it and watched all of their crimes topple.
Yeah.
When I drink, I want to go ape shit. Especially when I was younger, I wanted to go nuts when I was drunk.
Yeah.
And I would break shit. Maybe not anyone else's shit. Maybe or maybe not. But I did some pretty stupid things when I was hammered.
Yeah.
I have not so much with the green stuff.
No. I want to
chill.
Yeah, I want to read or play video games.
Yeah.
I don't want to do any.
I don't want to bother anybody.
No, I don't want to do any physical activity. I don't even want people talking to me, really. I just kind of want to go in my own... Yeah, I kind of want to go in my own little world.
Yep. It's so fucking aggravating.
Yeah, and they use the whole crime thing. You're basing that off of the fact that drugs are associated with crime because they're illegal.
Right.
You could make using that logic, then there should be a huge campaign trying to make booze illegal. Because at one point it was associated with crime, so it still must be.
Right. We should go back and make that illegal again.
Yeah.
Because it worked so well the first time.
Yeah, like that is literally the exact same logic that they're using. And then there's all the bullshit. What are some of the good bullshit things that these people say? Like it's a gateway drug, or
yeah, I love that one.
Next thing you know, people are gonna be driving around on shrooms, and like that's also not gonna happen.
No.
I've heard that bullshit all the time. And then so you know, like Portugal, like it's been over 10 years since they legalized every single drug, all of them. And
right.
There's been a huge decrease in just not even youth, but overall use.
Right.
And like a lot of their treatment facilities, like they could get adequate funds now.
Right, because no one's fucking doing all the bad shit.
Yeah, and even they have seen like a decrease in the number of patients, which is good because then the staff could actually work with more people more closely.
Exactly. Why would we want that over here, though?
Yeah. Yeah, and Portugal also doesn't have quite the like mafia problem the rest of Southern Europe does.
Right. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like one of the biggest, another big problem I have with it is just the fact that when you classify any drug as a Schedule 1 drug, that means you cannot do any research on it whatsoever. You can't find out how good or bad it really is. You can't find out how good or bad it is for actual individual people, for ailments. You can't do any research on it whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah, because because it's a real pain in the ass to, obtain the proper permission to do so. And if it's up to the government to give people permission, well, they're going to make sure the people they give permission to, they're going to make sure that their results are more in line with their agenda.
Right.
So really, any chance of fair and balanced research is just right out the window, right there.
Right. I think I mentioned this before, but there's, and I always forget which country it is. Somewhere in Europe, they're doing research on how hallucinogens can treat depression.
Oh, yeah.
And cure it in some cases.
Yeah, hold on a second. Actually, like the first mainstream use of ecstasy was for use in therapy. Like they would have patients do ecstasy, and they said that they would get a year's worth of therapy out of a 2-hour session.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, but no, that's they're criminals and junkies and pieces of shit. So.
Another thing Reagan fucked up on was mental health in general.
Oh yes.
Let's do a Reagan episode.
We should, because especially within within the last decade or so, Reagan really turned into a genuine hero of the Republican Party.
Which still baffles my fucking mind, because correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Reagan anti-Russia?
Oh, he referred to them as the evil empire in one of the speeches.
So, he's the Republican hero.
Right.
But the Republican president can do no wrong when it comes to collusion with Russia.
Right.
Oh, God damn it, my head hurts.
Yeah, this is our country.
Yep. I wouldn't live in another time, though. Again, we're witnessing some of the most amazing, ridiculous shit, and it's just fucking entertainment.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. I mean, we can complain all we want, but I would not live even a year ago, let alone,
No.
During the fucking 40s and the quote-unquote good old days.
How have we not mentioned Reefer Madness, by the way?
Oh yeah, I was kind of going. Yeah, I should have brought that up with the like yellow journalism thing that William Randolph Hearst did. That's
Yeah, he produced that, didn't he? Like, didn't he like back it?
I think he did. I know that it was backed by like a religious group actually. Like it was some church group financed it.
It's amazing. If somehow you haven't seen Reefer Madness, whether you're a pothead or the soberest person on the fucking planet, go watch Reefer Madness. It is just amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's remarkable.
Some of the best acting, some of the best dialogue.
My favorite part of that movie, and I actually think I brought this up on the show before, but there's the part where that dude's like playing piano. Or no.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's that guy. I forgot.
He's like in some different universe.
Yeah. Oh, no, there's the part where, like, the guy's going insane, because that's what marijuana does, and, like, at some point in the movie, they accidentally, like, run over and kill some person, and then... Like, if I remember, like, he's going insane, and I think he's hearing voices, and it's like, shut up.
Yeah, yep.
That is probably my favorite movie scene ever.
Yeah, it has to be.
Better than the closing scene of The Godfather. Was, shut up.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie was put out, and it worked. It fucking worked.
It sure did.
It was put out to like put fear into marijuana users and how bad and evil it is, and it fucking worked.
Oh, it absolutely did.
God, people are stupid.
And you know, like I'll give them, like people of that time, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they didn't know better. I mean, really, not a lot of people, you know, like not a lot of people, you know, used weed.
No excuses.
Like especially in rural areas. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but not now. If you believe any propaganda now, you're a fucking idiot, and you really need to learn how to think for yourself. And if you want to send any questions or comments about that statement, please do.
Question for COA@gmail.com.
Yes. And make sure it's an actual question this time. Or you know what? Just don't.
It doesn't matter. We'll form it into a question for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna ridicule you anyway.
Yeah. Harshly.
Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna get made fun of.
So that's gonna do it for this whole episode, all 3 parts. Like we were saying towards the end, if you have any questions for us, or want to make any statements, or tell us how good or bad our podcast is, or you want to tell us how Jesus is real and we're idiots, question for COA@gmail.com. Send them in. We'll get right on that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening again. We really do appreciate everyone's support, and we will talk to you next time.